Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in. Good morning, good morning. Okay, this is Cami Lehman. She is a wife, a mother of three. She actually married her high school sweetheart, which I love, and this is their 31st wedding anniversary this year. So shout out to Cami. That's amazing. Congratulations. Cami is the owner of Cami Lehman Coaching and Consulting, a virtual coaching community where she helps women launch new businesses or expand their current business. She recently launched a top-rated podcast on iTunes called She's Invincible, which rated at an all-time high of number 42 in the business entrepreneur category. Whoop, whoop, that's amazing. She is passionate about helping women discover their greatness, increase their worth, and expand their vision to create their big dream. Heck yes, I love it. She uses a strategic approach to marketing and networking to elevate her clients to the top level of leadership. She teaches behavioral styles and personality types for effective communication as it relates to business and life. Cami will inspire you to create your impossible dream and step into your greatness. I love it. Cami, thank you so much for your time. Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It is so much fun to sit here with you today.
Yes, I'm so grateful to have you. So, Cami, where are you tuning in from?
I live in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, which is just outside of Philadelphia. So I'm about 25 minutes outside of Center City. I've been here for almost 14 years. I'm actually a Jersey girl. I was born and raised in Jersey. And then we moved over here almost 14 years ago.
Awesome. Hey, that's great. Okay, so Cami, so I love to ask like a relatable question to start out. So tell us something about you that we wouldn't necessarily know. What's a fun fact about Cami Lehman?
Well, I was a teenage mom. I don't know if that's fun, but it is something that a lot of people don't know about me. So my husband and I met in high school, and we got caught doing some things that high schoolers shouldn't do. And so we have an amazing daughter because of that. So I don't recommend it, but it worked out really great for us. So that would be one crazy fun fact that, that's been, it turned out good for us. It doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you have three children.
Yes.
Are they in the same area as you?
Yeah. One is like 20 minutes, one is 40 minutes away. And then my daughter is the furthest. She just moved last year. She's 3.5 hours away. So that's really hard. She has 3 kids. And so we were used to being with them all the time. And now we're not with them at all, actually. So we do a lot of FaceTiming and, Google Duo and all the fun things, Zoom, and we do that. So it's working out.
That's awesome. So you're a grandma. So how many grandchildren do you have?
I have 7. And I have 1 on the way who's coming in July. Yes.
Yay. You have lots of exciting things going on. Your podcast, your grandbabies, that's awesome.
Yes. They're all healthy and and everyone is well and we're excited. So I feel really blessed.
That's amazing, especially right now, for sure.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. So to talk, so today we're going to be talking about fear, and we're going to dive in talking about how fear showed up for you in a significant way. So go ahead and touch on a significant time in your life when fear held you back from living your life fully.
How many minutes do we have? I have a lot of stories. So how about I just do a quick touch and then you can decide which one you want to spend more time on. I would say the first one would be having to tell my parents at 15 that I was having a baby. That was scary. That was really scary. Then the next one was finishing school, and having a job and having a baby. And then going to college and having a job and having a baby. And all this happened before I was 20. I wasn't even old enough to drive. And then I wasn't old enough to drink. And I still was doing all these things, having a baby and all of that. And then I think that I wasn't fearful. I really think, Rebecca, that fear for me came later. I think when we're younger, we are daring, and it's like a 2-year-old diving off a couch, right? Like a 10-year-old is
Yeah.
like, yeah, don't do that. That's not good. But when you're 2, you're like, wow, right? And you can relate to this. I'm
Yep.
sure there's a lot of that going on. Um, so I think that your early years, you tend to be more bold and brave. And I think as we get older is when we start to get tainted, right? We have all of the school of hard knocks and all those old messages playing of things we've done that maybe didn't work out. And I think that that's where fear comes in. We start to compare ourselves to other people, and
Yeah.
and we just are more afraid of a lot of things.
Wow. Yeah, for sure. And isn't that just the truth too? Because it's almost like with the beautiful surprise of becoming a mom so early that you kind of got like the resilience built into you from the get-go, because you learned like exactly that fear wasn't really a thing for you because you just knew you had to do it. Once you're pregnant, there's only one way out, and that's having a baby in some way, shape, or form. So, building up that resilience to know that even when you are scared and you are uncertain, that you're going to go through the motions and you're going to figure it out along the way, and it's going to be a-okay.
That is
So
the
I love
thing. And
that
that is
because
such,
it's the truth.
yeah, and it's such a great message because, the truth is when you're faced with decisions and opportunities, you don't know how they're going to turn out. You really have to step out in faith and just believe for the best, because until you actually
Yeah,
do the thing, you don't actually know if it's going to work. So
right.
that's how fear holds us back, because we want to have a guarantee that it's going to work, or that it's going to turn out well, and that does
Yeah.
not come with risk, right? There's no guarantees with risk. You do it, and then you see how it goes, and then you know better and you do better the next time.
Right. And I like to point out, I always like to say this too, is that, the vlog being called Live Fearlessly, people are like, well, I don't believe in not having fear. And to me, living fearlessly isn't about not having the fear. It is quite literally about knowing the fear exists every single day, little and big. And we need to be risking the fear to figure out, where those amazing things are. So exactly what you're saying is like, we have the fear, we know it's there. And I actually really preach about making fear our best friend, really walking with it in a positive way to see it through a different lens. So I love that. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, and I would say this too on that same topic is that, fear and excitement really show up in your body as the same energy. And it's just a matter of if you focus on the excitement or the fear. When you get excited, you get nervous, you get sweaty, you get, heavy breathing. When you're afraid, you get nervous, you get heavy breathing, right? You get
Yes.
butterflies, you get all the same feelings, but what makes it different is how you process it and what you do next. So you can choose to sit in the fear and have the same feeling, or you take the step and turn that same feeling into excitement and adventure on that next thing.
Yeah, 1,000%. That's actually one of the tips that I use for myself and that I tell people for speaking engagements is like, I get so nervous. Like, how do you do this? Even coming on the vlog, like this was a fear of mine before. Like I was so nervous about it. And I get butterflies every time, but that's because I'm so excited for people to share their stories. And I quite literally say in the mirror 3 times before any speaking, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. And I actually say it out loud to tell myself like that feeling, that's excitement, and it's okay. It's going to be great. So I love that. That's so
Yeah.
true. Very cool. So,
Awesome.
so when you were in the fear space, right? Like that's all like a couple of years of your life figuring out what adulthood was going to be like as a teenager, right? So like in that fear space, where were you mentally during that time, and how did you actually feel about yourself?
I was mentally in the motion. So there was no time to figure things out. It just unfolded and you just do the best you can, right? So that's really where I was. There was no time to think about it or anything. Like you go into the hospital and they hand you this baby and a couple days later you go home. Yeah, like that's how it works. And you don't, you did it a few times yourself. And so, yeah, you don't really get to figure it out. It really evolves. I think you just learn what works and what doesn't work and what you like and what you don't like. And then you just go with it. And I think that's like anything you do, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just a lot more stress because it's about a human being. Right?
But when you're young like that, again, like I was daring, so I didn't see the seriousness. Looking back, I think, and when I hear other young kids are having babies, I'm like, oh no. And then I think, wait a minute, you did that. Like, it's so funny how you're removed from that, after you've done it. So it's really funny how the mind works, because that is so true.
Yeah,
and I do go through that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you were breaking free from that fear and you were going in like the direction of just, going through the motions and getting a feel for it, right? Like having the job, doing the mom thing, like how did relationships and friendships shift or change for you, if they did, right? Like coming to your parents, going to the job, and still knowing like graduation, like all of those things in that maybe like 5-year time frame where it was like really in it from like 15 to 20. How did your relationships and friendships really start to like shift during that time?
Well, I would say, I wasn't really as close with like my school friends because, that I was the pregnant girl in school, right? So that was different. But I made new friends that were older than me and that were outside of school. And so I embraced those. And yet, even today, I still have not, we're not close, but I still communicate and have those high school friends as acquaintances. So, we've always kept that type of being in touch, and Facebook has made that easy too, like to find each other and kind of, stay connected that way. So now we're celebrating. I'm just a little bit further ahead than they are, with the grandkids and things like that. But yeah, it didn't really, it was just different people. But I think that's like anything in life, right? As we grow and we rise, we sometimes have to leave people behind, and that happens in everything that we do.
Yeah, I think definitely. And I think that really comes with being around like-minded people, right? So if you are someone that goes to personal development conferences, if you go to have conversations with other leaders that are getting out there and sharing messages, like you are bound to get put in the circles of the people who are stepping up and stepping up and stepping up, because that's what you're doing. You're putting yourself in that fear space so that you have the opportunities to be growing and rising up. But I think that actually might be one of the key things that I've taken away from hearing people's stories, is that that's the difference, is that it's the action, it's the step forward that we take when we are in those fear spaces that so many people let stop them in their tracks. They freeze up, they don't know what to do, it's uncertain, and they stop. And the fear, like people like us, right? The women that are like, okay, let's keep going. It kind of gets the momentum, and it's kind of like an addiction to just like keep going, because you're like, hey, I'm just going to keep rolling, and you get the momentum going. Is that something that you would agree with? Like once you step out and keep going?
Yeah, I think you always have to outdo yourself, right? So it's always like you do something that works out really good, and then you're like, what's my next great thing? I think that's how we stretch and grow. I think we're kind of like a little hermit crab, right? So the hermit crab can only grow as big as his shell. So if you want to get bigger, or you want your crab to grow bigger, you've got to put it in a new shell that's bigger, and it'll climb into that shell and it'll grow bigger. And then it's a process that continues. And I do think that that's how we are as people, is that we do need to step into that next biggest thing so that we can grow and then keep doing that. And I think that we need to continue that journey until we're not alive anymore. And that, I really believe that we need to continue to grow. And I think, like I said, the older people get, the more fearful they are. And that's when things start to slow down for them. I don't want to be that person.
Yeah. I don't believe you will. Like, just keep stretching yourself and getting it out there. And I think that's, I mean, your podcast is going to be a great archive of how that is going to keep evolving for you too, and like getting out there and progressing with it. So that's amazing. And so I didn't ask you this yet, but if you could pinpoint, like, what was your fear around this time? What would you say that is? What was your fear?
Around which time?
Just like the whole conversation
anytime?
of becoming a parent in your teenage years and moving forward in life and becoming an adult and all of the figuring it out, right? Figuring out life without a manual. What would you say your fear was in that time?
Honestly, if I think back, I didn't really have one. I wasn't fearful of those things. It was the fears came later as I was in corporate America. And then I left corporate America. I think that's really where it probably started. And that, I would say I was right around 29 or 30. And I left corporate America and I started my journey in direct sales. And I think I could probably pinpoint that that was where I started to feel my first fear was, what if I'm not good at it? What if it doesn't work out? What will I do? What will people say? We go through all those things, which we shouldn't, but we do. And so I think I would say that was one of my first fears in that area. And that was, I just did it. I did it and it worked out. And I think every time it's like a muscle, right? Every time you work that muscle and it gets stronger, you can do the next thing. So I think that started. And then the next thing was, I've been in direct sales for 26 years. And about 4 years ago, it was time. Like I felt that I needed to step away and move into that next great thing. And again, I remember that fear, it was debilitating. And I was really stuck in a place because I didn't want to make a decision because I knew I was going to have to leave some things behind. And I didn't actually give up my direct sales business, but I gave up a lot of relationships and a lot of the circle that I was working with in the business. And I was reaching for something bigger and better. And what I realized after, of course, not during, it was very painful, right? And scary. But, I just knew that I was made for more and there was something better on the other side of that. And so what I realized was as long as I was holding on to that good, I would never be able to reach for the great. And as soon as I let go and release that, all these things started flowing to me like magic. I tell you, it was like magic. And like people showed up and like I let go of like 20 people and I got like thousands. And I had this whole new, it was amazing. It was so amazing. And so I guess like that was the moral of the story is that, if you hold on so tight to the good, you can never reach and grab the great, and it will keep you stuck in the good. And because that's safe, in your mind, what to expect. So you're not afraid. You come to a place where you're comfortable and it's not scary anymore. And so that's just easier, but that's not what's worth it. What's worth it is really letting go and grabbing that next best thing.
Yeah, the word complacency comes to my mind. Like just being complacent with where you are and being like, this is good. Like I can be fulfilled in this, but like really as humans, we need to be growing in order to feel alive, feel fulfilled. And even if it's just, I always say 1% better a day, like thinking about things like really micro to me helps me take those steps forward. So that's what I would agree with that too. So when you jump ship from that fear, right, of saying like, okay, I'm going to let go of the good to go for my greatness, like what was that tipping point for you? Like, how did you finally come to the point where you're like, okay, I'm going to just let this go and I'm going to be strong enough to move towards the greatness?
Yes. So I would say I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I know that's a cliche, but if you've ever been there, then you understand what I'm saying is that you just, it's when the pain of remaining the same is greater than the pain of change. And that's what happened to me was that I knew that if I stayed the same, that would be more painful than making a change and going for those bigger, better things. And that was the tipping point. That was absolutely the tipping point. And honestly, I can tell you that I've done more in those 4 years than I did in my entire life.
Wow.
in 4 years. Yes. And I,
That's amazing.
and then, you know, then comes creeping in the, what if I had done that sooner? Don't even go there. Right.
No, no,
We don't have time for that topic today, but I mean, but
no.
that's what happens. And like, you know,
Yeah.
from wisdom, you could say to people, like, you can wait all you want, but when you get to the other side, you are going to be so disappointed that you waited. And that is so true. And I do say that to myself. Like when people say, well, do you have any regrets? I'm like, that I didn't do it like 20 years sooner, you know?
Yes. And so is that you starting your coaching and your virtual community?
Yeah. Yeah. So I got
Yeah.
involved in the networking company, and I was a trainer for them. And then I started my own coaching and company. And then I started a coaching community. Then I started writing a book because I thought, you know, we all joke about writing books, right? Like, oh, that's going in chapter 7. That's a great story. And, you know, because life is just full of stories, right?
Yes.
And so finally I was presented with an opportunity. So I started writing a book. And this all happened in these 4 years, which is crazy to me. And yet this is the process, right? And that's what I say about don't wait too long to decide. But I started writing a book and I got stuck in the last chapter and I could not finish. And it was just, when I tell you stuck, I was stuck. It was like somebody had muted me, like taped my mouth shut. I couldn't get another like thought or word out. And I just didn't understand it, but I thought I just have to keep going. So I'll just keep doing the things I want to do. So I kind of put the book aside, and then I went on, and then I had this opportunity for the podcast. And it was just recently, we launched the podcast on March 2nd. And it was in those couple of days that I realized that that was the ending of the book that I couldn't write. And that this would be the ending to this book, this story. And there'll probably be more than one book, but this would be the ending, the perfect ending for this story. And so, and everything just opened up again. You know, it's like magic when it happens.
That's amazing. I love that. That's so cool. And the fact that you felt stuck and like, then you were like, okay, I need to push through this to like push it aside so I can push through and figure out what that is. And then, like you said, once you felt it, you were like, okay, here we go. So you finished your book now?
Not yet. Nope. It's only been just a
okay.
couple, like it's been 8 weeks. So but that is next on my plan. As soon as I get everything, you know, where I want it to be with the podcast, then I'm going back to write that last chapter and get that off to the editor, and it will be published by the end of this year.
Yay. You heard it here, so folks. There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
I love that. So, okay, so what advice would you give the viewers about overcoming fear or moving through it, really? Because obviously you are in a position where we can tell, you know, you're taking those steps, and breaking through and moving through them a lot more gracefully than a lot of us. So tell us, what advice would you give the viewers about moving through their fears?
Well, I would say fear is real. Like fear is real to you, whatever your fear is. And you do need to acknowledge that. Let's not pretend that we're not having it or it's not existing, because the first step in overcoming it is actually acknowledging it. And so that would be the first thing. The second thing I'd say is punch fear right in the face, right? So like acknowledge that it's there and then boom, punch it right in the face, because you have to choose if you're going to live your best life or you're going to live and die in fear. And I believe, you know, Les Brown says that the cemetery is the most valuable place in the world because so many people are buried with their dreams still in their heart. And so I would say to you, you know, whatever it takes, if you need therapy, if you need a tribe, if you need to read books or listen to a podcast or get a coach, whatever you personally need, the fear is never going to go away. As long as you're reaching and stretching, you will always have fear at every level. Every time you do something new, there's a new fear that comes with it. It is what it is. And you just need to, I would say the more you work through it, the better you get at it. And the faster you can get through the process. You will never overcome fear. You will punch it in the face. You will step over it and you will live your best life in spite of it. That's what I really believe.
Yeah. Woo! I love it. You fire it up. That's awesome. So is there something that you do like yourself, like moving through the process of thinking through your things, right? Like with the podcast and with moving in new directions for anything, is there any kind of like a tool that you would tell people is something that's really helped you specifically?
Well, I'd say the one thing that I do that serves me really well is I always stay in action. So, like I said, when I was stuck on the book, I was like, I didn't sit there stuck on the book. I was like, what's my next thing? What am I going to do next? So, that would be stay in action, never stop moving. So, find something else to do, get good at something, move yourself into a learning space where you can learn and have some self-development and grow, because when you are winning and you're achieving and you're growing, your confidence is rising, and your confidence
Yes.
can rise up above any fear. So if you, no matter whether it was confidence in a podcast versus stuck in not being able to finish a book, I rose above it. So when I came out of that victory of the podcast, I was like, I can do anything. And that gave me what I needed to go back and do that thing, right? So I
Yes.
would say that. So staying in action. The other thing is, who are you surrounding yourself with? Because some people don't realize it, but they're letting you off the hook. And that
Yeah.
is not good, right? Like say your husband might see that you're really uncomfortable, be like, well, it's okay if you don't do it. No, it's not
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
No, because they want you to be happy. And because when mommy's happy, everybody's happy, right? You know, good wife, happy wife,
Yeah.
good life. So they want you to be happy, and they don't want to see you in pain. But, if you think about the butterfly, right, how he starts out in a cocoon, and there's a lot of pain and suffering there. But if they don't push through, then the things don't happen, that make them fly, right? So they can either
Yes.
stay the caterpillar, or they can push through, and then the fluid hits their wings, and then they grow these beautiful wings. But if someone were to cut that cocoon and help them, that fluid wouldn't move, and those wings would never emerge, and that butterfly would be a caterpillar forever. And so be sure that your people that you are hanging around with are feeding you and encouraging you, and not telling you it's okay. It is not okay. It is not okay to not live your best life. I'm telling you right now, it is not okay. You're here to live, yes,
Yes.
your best life. You're here to make a difference in the world, and to make a huge impact, and to use your story to help those who come after you. And so I would say that's the other thing, is be grateful, be careful who you hang around with. Use self-care constantly. I find that the more I'm stuck, the more self-care I need. So
Yep.
I'll have a lot of quiet time. I'll meditate. I'll read in the hot tub a whole day, not like 15 minutes. I'll go to the hot tub for the whole day, and I can read a whole book. But, I take that one day, and then I am more productive for the next month, because I had one 5 or 6
Yeah.
hour day in a book, in a hot tub. So, you have to be able to take care of yourself, walk away, get yourself together, do all the things that bring you joy. I do that joy test. I love that, but do what brings you joy, and keep yourself really strong. And that's what it is be strong. And whatever it takes to make you feel strong is what you need to do more of.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that was fire. I love that. That was so great. And now I can fully go to my husband and say, don't let me off the hook. And we're rewarding me with a hot tub.
Yeah. I love it. Oh my
I've
gosh. And
always
then
wanted a hot tub. I'm a
we'll
water baby. I
FaceTime.
love the water.
We'll FaceTime from the hot tubs. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yes, that's
Yes.
so great. So many great tips in there. I love that. And I'm all about action taking, those baby steps, the little celebrations, they stack up to those big wins, because like the conversation of being stagnant, right? Like we cannot grow from there. And it's so awesome that you're talking about a butterfly, because literally the last 2 episodes that I just recorded, we had a discussion about a butterfly at some point in there. It's
Oh my gosh.
interesting to me right now, because things come to me in threes. So I'm going to have to reflect on that more. But that was so great. So Cammie, where is the best place for the viewers to connect with you?
Okay, so you can find me at CamiLehman.com, and everything I do is right there in that one place. And of course, my podcast, which you can find on iTunes, and that is called She's Invincible.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Go connect with Cami. She's amazing. Okay, and then the last question I love to end with is, now that we can obviously see you're a woman of action, where do you see yourself living fearlessly in the next 5 years?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked me this, because this has been coming up a lot lately, kind of like your butterflies. So
Yeah.
where I see myself, my biggest dream and scariest thing that I'm about to, step into, and I mean, I'm stepping into it in my head right now. I just want you to know this is not in the works yet, is
Yes.
to have a national talk show. So I want to have a national talk show. I always tell people I want to be like Ellen DeGeneres. I want to team up with Cheerios and give $25,000 to all the people in the world who really need it, and to make a difference, and just to give hope and inspire and make a difference in other people's lives. And so I am working on myself and on my vision and my visualization. And I actually stop everything at 3:00 and I watch Ellen every day. And I don't know if you watch her, but since the studios are closed, she's broadcasting from her living room. In California. And it's hysterical,
That's
but
awesome.
I listen because I laugh and cry with her, because I feel like I'm connected to her in a sense that I want to make a huge difference in the world, and I want to help other people. And I feel like that's what I'm here for. And all of these things that I've done have really just moved me closer to that. And it just prepared me for such a time as that.
I love it. I love it. Shout out to Ellen.
Yes. Right.
That's so great. I love it. Well, you heard it here first, guys. There we go. A national television show for Cami Lehman. That's amazing. I'm so excited. And I love when people are not fearful of actually sharing what that kind of like big scary thing is, that everyone's like, I don't really know what that looks like. And you just like bared it all right now. Like, that was amazing. I'm so proud of you for just like gung-hoing it. That's so great.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Gotta
Thank you
speak it
so
into
much.
existence. That's awesome.
You know what? The old me 4 years ago would have been worried about what people would think.
Yes.
And the me today, 4 years later, doesn't care anymore. I just don't. And I think
she's invincible, y'all. She's invincible.
And you know what? I'm so glad you said that, because I want to say this is that, my podcast, She's Invincible, is not about winning. It's about getting back up. So I know that in the journey and in the pursuit of living my best life, that as long as I never give up, and as long as I get back up one more time, that I will live the life of my dreams. And you will too.
Yes. I got goosebumps, of course. Resilience, baby. I love it. So great. So great. Such a great message. Cami, thank you so much for coming on, taking the time to share your knowledge with us, your action-taking skills that have been put into place, that everyone can now be lit on fire. Go connect with Cami and go take action now, today. Do not wait for tomorrow. And Cami, just so grateful for you. Thank you again for coming on.
Thank you. And I cannot wait to have you on my show so you can tell your story to the world and to the She's Invincible tribe.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Remember to love yourself and live fearlessly. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.